You're listening to HeartBeat Radio. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. HeartBeat Radio is a conversation aimed to take the pulse of corporate America. Opportunities for people of color, we're getting lost in the shuffle of change. I'm that provocateur of change. The hearts of corporate America are addressed. Access and opportunities will be accelerated for all people. Through HeartBeat Radio, you will gain a deeper understanding of what is necessary for change. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to HeartBeat Radio and Podcast. I am your host, Cindi Bright. I think things look a little different this evening as I am live at Rainier Avenue Radio in Columbia City this evening. So we are excited to bring you a good show tonight. We have some interesting things to talk about this evening. Let me bring in my co-host with me, Joy Stanford. Can we bring Joy on? Hey, Joy. I didn't expect to be sitting on stage tonight, and I certainly don't like the fact that I have this skirt on here.
Hello, I'm gonna need you to get a little towel or a blanket or something.
Well, how are you this evening? All's good?
Great, loving the sun. It's 81 degrees here in the South Sound. Loving every minute of it, and looking forward to talking to our guest tonight.
Yeah, same here. Look, we've had, again, another really rough week again as hatred is escalating, as brown and black candidates are under full attack. I'm excited because we have two great guests with us tonight. The first half of the show, we do have Pastor Carey Anderson back on with us this evening. But before we bring him on, I don't know if our listeners have seen or know, Pastor Carey Anderson was under assault this past week. We're going to let him explain to our community what has happened. His campaign is not the only one that was targeted. We had Representative April Berg's campaign also targeted, where the supremacists are coming out in full force to try to hold back we as Black people, our aim to gain political power here in the state to change the trajectory of equity in the state of Washington. Let's bring Pastor Carey Anderson on with us today.
Hello. Praise the Lord, everybody. Good to see you.
How are you?
Good to see you, Joy. We had a blast the last time we were together, and I'm glad to be able to be with you again.
Yes, under better circumstances, I wish, but we did get to see the news, and we just kind of wanted to hear from you about, first off, like how you're doing post all of this. Do you want to talk to our audience about what actually happened to you this past week?
Well, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to come on your podcast one more time. Me, along with another of my volunteers, were out canvassing, and we were placing our yard signs, and a driver came by and rolled down the window, and next thing we know, there were shots fired, and I look at my volunteer that's standing next to me, and I say, "I'm hit." And so the driver was driving by. So this is technically a drive-by shooting. Mm-hmm. And I was hit and struck in the hip twice, not once, but twice. He didn't miss, he hit me. And so a sheriff's report was filed with the deputy and the sheriff's department who surveilled the area, and they did see that there were cameras. So we're still under investigation. The situation is right now, but I am a testament of what second chances is all about. It could have been a more devastating situation. It was a BB gun this time, but next time it could be an assault rifle. And so I'm a survivor. My team and my campaign is going strong. We're not scared. We're not going to hide into seclusion. We are out and about. We're in the streets. We're posting signs. We're knocking on doors, undaunted. And we are going to continue to finish our race and finish the course and come out on top. That is our plan. That is our goal. And that is our desire.
Yeah, that is our desire for you too. You know, the more I heard you on Channel 5 on the news the other night, and I heard you talking about, you know, what these folks don't understand. I'm a paraphrase, and this is not, I'm not saying it in the pastor terms because you were way more gentle than I'm about to be when I say it. But when these folks come out and think that they can stop us because they don't want us to progress as people, they don't want us to progress as a nation, the only thing it does is it inspires us even more to fight harder because we see and know. Look, I'm sitting in Columbia City. I don't know if anybody heard about one of our own businesses here in Columbia City got broken into here yesterday, Island Soul. We as Black community are under full attack. And here in Washington State, oh, that's so much better. Thank you for changing that camera. We here in Washington State, we're not any different than what's going on across the country. And so, our elections that are going on right now, ballots are out. I was looking this afternoon at your vote in the voters pamphlet at you and what you were saying about yourself. We have to get people like you into office, people who are not afraid to speak the truth, to stand for what we need to have for in political office and regain some control and power and progress our communities.
Praise the Lord. We are survivors. And not only that, but we are people of second chances. And let me explain what I'm talking about when I talk about second chances. I could be dead right now. That could have been an assault weapon. It could have been a deadly firearm. Yes. But I survived. I'm a survivor, and I believe in second chances. Let me tell you about what second chances means to me. Just 10 years ago, I suffered from prostate cancer. I survived that, second chance. Then 2 years later, 2014, I had a situation where I fell in the running to catch a flight at SeaTac and went to the doctor, found out that I had a tumor growing inside of my stomach area and needed emergency surgery. And they took out half of my stomach because of that, gastric cancer. And it's the leading cause, one of the leading causes of cancer right now, gastric cancer. I'm a survivor. And when I came out of that, I said to myself, I want to thank God for giving me a second chance so I could be a better pastor, a better husband, a better father, a better grandfather, a better public servant. And so this is why I'm running right now, because when I started thanking God for that second chance, I started getting healthier, eating healthier, walking and exercising. And little did I know, but shortly after that, my congregation started walking with me after church on Sundays, walk with the pastor Sundays. And so it influenced the whole congregation. Many people in the congregation began walking with me, and they began to take better inventory of their health. And so if we could do this on a local level, we should be able to make systemic change on larger levels, because we're all should take note of how many chances we've been given, and let's make the most of our opportunity. So I'm running stronger, Cindy. I'm running stronger, Joy. I'm running with more.
Good. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah. I can climb every mountain. I can ford every stream. I can climb, and I can also swim and go down into the valley and come up straight on the other side, because I believe in second chances. And God forbid for someone else to experience what I've experienced with that shooting, but I'm still here and I'm still alive, and I thank God for a second chance. What about you all?
Well, I think I'm excited that you're here, and I'm sorry that you've had to experience this. Both Cindy and I ran in 2018, and then she decided she wasn't going to do that again, and I ran again in 2020. And I remember the fear I felt doorbelling by myself, because people started looking out their window, not answering the door, coming outside, looking at me and looking at my lip piece, my leave behind for them, strangely. And then I never doorbelled by myself again. So I am so sorry you had to experience that. But I think Cindy hit it on the head when she said, it's those moments that they're doing these things. The reason why they're doing these things, because they know we are rising up, we are standing up, we are speaking up, we are bringing issues in our communities to the forefront. And we're not going to stand for this anymore. We're not going to stand idly by for all of these things to happen. So I want you to one more time tell us your top 3 platform issues that you're fighting for your community.
Well, we can start at 3, but I have a lot more because I'm a man of the community. But public safety is the number one issue.
Yes,
and we need to fund our police officers so that they will have the tools, but not every 911 call needs to be responded to by a badge and a gun. And so I'm also for funding paraprofessionals, civic leaders, pastors that are in the community, and community leaders that are in the community, but also our social workers, also our addictive specialists, addiction specialists that know how to de-escalate situations. And so when we properly fund our system for law enforcement, we can have a more grounded and well-rounded approach instead of taking out a gun and shooting someone that's got a mental health issue, and though they are not in possession of a firearm or any weapon of destruction. So these are things that are important to me. Also, I want to mention this. According to the U.S. Consumer Protection Commission, BB guns can kill 4 people a year. Wow. BB guns have been killing up to 4 people every year in America. So we thank God that I'm blessed to not only be one of the ones that have survived, but been shot, and I'm still here. So along with public safety, we're also talking about homelessness.
Right.
And we know that the leading cause of homelessness are evictions from their homes.
Right.
And so I am a staunch supporter of helping people stay in their homes. That's what we did during the whole COVID period. We're a landlord too at the church, but we didn't kick anybody out. We fed them, we gave them resources, we vaccinated them and boosted them. And so we want to continue to provide resources to make it available for people to stay in their homes. My opponent, she has voted against extending the opportunities for people to stay in their homes, and voted to not grant a 14-day extension. She kept it at 3 days. So you have 3 days to pay your rent once you get an eviction notice. And so I think people may need a little longer than 3 days, to catch up on the rent. And then the last area, of course, is public education. I'm a former educator, and I want to fund our schools and make sure that we have the paraprofessionals to support our young people. And the school districts are primarily dominated by people of color, BIPOC children. And so we need professionals that look like the students in which they're trying to teach.
Amen.
Also. And I'm also for the Washington State Constitution and not preventing or denying, now this is number 4, not preventing or denying a woman to have the choice of making regarding her health. Those are some of the most important decisions a woman has to make. And so she ought to be able to make those decisions regarding her body, her health, and her family.
Thank you. Amen. Thank you so much. That's so important. And we see that those rights are being taken away from us
They've been taken
at every level. So thank you.
And it has inspired trigger laws since R. V. Wade has been overturned by the Supreme Court.
Right.
Did you happen to catch the article in the paper today, since you were just talking about housing and evictions and all? Did you catch the article that came out about the overwhelming property acquisition by people out of town coming in and purchasing up all the homes? And so it has put brown and black communities in another tough position because of inventory levels that are not there, and the driving of home prices up. What are your views about how will you try to help resolve not just keeping people in their homes, but the fact that brown and black communities have been marginalized in their ability to earn wealth? And so there's a myriad of ways to earn wealth, one of which is property ownership. Talk to us about what you will do when you get elected in Olympia to help deal with social equity, housing, wealth. You talked about education. I'm going to probe into that here in just a second as well. Let's hear what you think more about that.
Well, thank you, Cindy. What an excellent question. And of course, home ownership has been the key for the Black community in stabilizing families and promoting strong communities. So we're going to have to put into place as a legislator rent controls so that landlords just can't charge exorbitant amounts of rent just because they can, just because they want to, and just because they agree and want more money. We need to put some measures in place so that there is some answerability on a state level or even a local level before they can just automatically raise their rents so that people can provide for their families. We know that everything's going up, especially gas, milk, bread. You want it's going to cost. So we need to put some measurements on rent control so that people can stay in their homes and hopefully get to a place where they can buy their own home and sustain their families, and home ownership to build wealth for their children and their families.
Pastor Carey, would you agree that we are in a humanitarian crisis right now when it comes to the lives of brown and black people?
We're at risk.
Absolutely.
Brown and black people are an at-risk people. Even at my age, I shouldn't have to worry about if I'm posting a sign, am I going to be shot? Now, but it just goes to show you how at risk and endangered species we really are. And so,
Going to the grocery store.
Come on now. We talking about tops? We talking about QFC?
Going to the grocery store.
I'm saying it doesn't have to be tops. It could be QFC. Shoot, it could be KFC for that matter.
Thank you.
Just some chicken to go home and feed your kids. So it's a never-ending spiral of issues. When we kiss our children goodbye for them to go to school, and we kiss our spouse or our loved ones goodbye and said, I'll see you at the day's end, there's no guarantee you're going to see them at the end of the day.
That's right.
Because now we're at risk for canvassing while black, not alone driving while black, or take Breonna Taylor sleeping while black, Breonna Taylor walking while black. Just routine traffic stops could be a life endangered situation. We look at Jayland Walker just a few days ago. That case came up, and there were 90 rounds of shots that were fired at him on a routine traffic stop. The coroner said that 45 of those rounds hit him.
There's another one in the news today, if you haven't seen. There's a video going, and I just caught it right before I came into the station here. There's a video going on around a person who failed to stop, and the video shows the police coming into that person's house, just the chaos around failure to stop at a stop sign. Like, things are so far out of control now from my perspective with police and the killing of us, and now with what you have experienced, trying to take away our access. Look, they know when black people get in office, we have had enough of these inequities that are going on. You talked about education. We don't have our children aren't safe in schools. Our schools, school resource officers are police officers, the very people who are destroying us. We need options for our children's education. We need options for parents to be able to choose where they send their children to school and to be able to be taught by teachers that look like them and understand them, instead of putting us in a box and deciding, oh, I don't want Carey Anderson in the legislature, so let me just take my BB gun out and off him. That's the mentality, and it's increasing here in the state of Washington. And so I can't emphasize this enough, because we're almost out of time, that we must, look, we've got 2 months left, Pastor Carey. We're praying you get through the primary so that we can get you into the general election. We have 2 months before we start to see how and if the outright, whatever you want to call them, extremists, Republicans, all the same pot of people, if they're starting to gain more power, we have way more problems than I think we even believe we are going to have here in the state of Washington. In the last couple of minutes, let's show his, I can't see the feed from sitting up here. I want to make sure we show Pastor Carey's campaign so that we can donate to his campaign. Let me emphasize, you don't have to live in the 30th district to donate to his campaign. Every dollar counts to help get a legislator elected. He needs signs in yards. He needs flyers to go out. We need to get
people
him
door knocking with him.
Go ahead, Joy. I didn't hear you.
I was going to say, people need to go out and door knock with them after church on Sunday. Right now, if you can get out and use your feet because you don't have but $5 to give time, give an hour, give 2 hours a week just to go out and knock doors with them, walk with them, talk with them, start conversations in the community with him so folks can get to know who he is.
Yes.
And Joy, I certainly appreciate that. And Cindi, if they can't walk, they can wave.
That's right.
We have wave parties, and we have the placards talking about our campaign and how to go to our website and how you can give that way too. Everybody can do something. Everybody
can do something.
That's right.
Yes, we're getting them. Final thoughts, Pastor Carey, before we go to break?
Again, I always enjoy coming on your podcast. I always enjoy. It seems like the time just goes extra fast when we're together. I don't know, something is about that chronology. And so this is a Kairos moment. And so this is a God time. And I believe the time is now for change. I believe time is now for proven new leadership in the new 30th district. I believe in second chances. And I'm thanking God that it wasn't a BB gun nor an assault rifle. And I'm a survivor and I'm a product of a second chance. And I want to offer second chances to those whom I will be serving in the legislature. And I just believe that God is so good that if he gave me a second chance, there are other opportunities out there for other people as well.
Yeah. So look, we are in your corner. We are covering you in prayer to help you get yourself positioned and get yourself into office. We need champions in Olympia. We need people who are unafraid to stand up and do the right things. And so from the bottom of the joy in our hearts, we are so grateful. You can see, looks like your stepson.
Yep. Looks like folks are coming in.
Mr. Shamari Jones.
Thank you for your courageous leadership.
Yeah, we are in your corner. So go ahead.
I was saying he doorbells with us.
All right.
Shamari.
It's a family affair. When you run for office, it's a family affair.
Family affair. Pastor Carey, blessings to you. Thank you for coming on at the last minute. We got you on again, and I know we went through a lot today to get you scheduled on. So we are sending prayers your way. We're going to take a quick station identification, and we'll be back here in a couple minutes.
Thank you so much.
Head up the sacks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not deep frying a turducken in a closed garage, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Are you a small business owner in Seattle who was impacted by COVID-19? The Seattle Office of Economic Development is investing $8 million to connect small businesses to operating capital. The Small Business Capital Access Program will lower the cost of Washington State Small Business Flex Fund loans by paying down 25% of the loan principal. Eligible small businesses can borrow up to $150,000 with a 4% interest rate to cover expenses like payroll, rent, utilities, and supplies.
Hey, this is Paul Pearson. I've hosted the R&B show Star Time since the very beginning of Rainier Avenue Radio, and after years of featuring tracks from the 50s through the 80s, Star Time now plays R&B and hip-hop from the 1990s as well. A whole half-century of soul, funk, hip-hop, and more on Star Time, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Greetings. This is your host, DJ Neftali, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the best DJ in the Seattle area. You can catch me every Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like I said, this is DJ Neftali, the best reggae in Seattle, Washington, the best radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Come on, right?
Welcome to the coronavirus pandemic. I'll take coronavirus for 100. Fever, chills, shortness of breath, loss of taste or smell. What is staying home and isolate? Correct. Coronavirus for 200. Inability to stay awake, persistent pain or pressure in chest, trouble breathing. What is seek immediate help? Correct.
Coronavirus for 500.
Crippling and potentially dead infectious disease eliminated in the United States with vaccination.
What is the polio vaccine?
Correct.
I'll take coronavirus for 700.
The Daily Double! Should I take the coronavirus vaccine? Wait. Hold up. This is not a game. It's time for serious discussions. We have coronavirus vaccines, but not everyone is comfortable taking them. Here's the facts. Based on what has been proven about vaccines for other diseases, COVID-19 vaccine may help keep you from getting seriously ill, even if you do get the virus. Getting vaccinated also may protect people around, particularly those at greater risk for severe illness from COVID-19. We don't yet have all of the answers. Get informed, talk to your healthcare physician, and make the right decision for you. This is a message supported by the Washington State Department of Health.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
That up in Saks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.
Welcome back to HeartBeat Radio and Podcast. I am your host, Cindi Bright. I am live in the studio today inside of the Columbia City Theater. So I'm excited to be doing a live show. I haven't been in the studio in a minute. Our show, let's bring Joy in with me here. Our show, hey Joy, our first half of our show, we had Pastor Carey on, and it was encouraging to have him back on and hear that he is not defeated and even more determined to get himself elected. Would you agree, Joy?
I would definitely agree, because that is frightening. And we know if anybody understands, it's us. We understand. So
yeah.
It's frightening to know that happened to him. It's frightening to know that level has amped up that high where something like that can happen. Seriously.
Yeah.
And so, I just said when we first heard about it, I said, I thank God that wasn't a real gun. I thank God that wasn't an AR-15.
When we met, when I ran you've run twice, the first election when I ran in 2018, I remember, I ran in the 48th, which is the east side. And so when I was out campaigning, I remember very vividly, I always took someone door knocking with me. And I remember scouting the houses and looking at the type of vehicles that were parked out front.
Absolutely.
Like things that we have to make sure we are careful. And I remember saying to one of the elected officials who was campaigning with me, I had said to him, we're not going up to that house right there. And he was like, why? And I'm like, okay, I need you to look at it through my lens for a second. So let's just talk about it. It's like this F-350. It's this big, I'm like, look, people of color, we don't drive them kind of vehicles. You look around at some of the things that were outside the house, including all these cameras around. I'm like, we're not knocking on that door.
And I remember you don't knock on doors where it says no soliciting. I had to say that to a person from the state party who came with me, not state party. She worked for the HDCC at the time. Love her to death. But as a Black woman, I cannot knock on doors where it says no soliciting. Why? Because I've had people come to the door and say, can't you read? Can't you read? Why, yes, I'm a very well-educated woman. I can read, but I'm not soliciting. That's not the conversation I can have like a white woman or a white candidate can have at the door. So
I remember
Shukri's here now.
having to explain myself to this elected official who said to me, like, I've never had to think like that, Cindi.
No,
And I'm like,
you
welcome
have
to
not.
my world.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world,
Looks
right?
like
Like this.
Shukri's here.
Okay, we'll get to her. Before I introduce Shukri, let me set the stage for bringing Shukri Olow. I was just waiting. She was in another meeting. Originally had announced to the community that tonight we were going to have on the show 2 Black candidates that are running in the 47th district. And those 2 candidates are Carmen Goers and Bill Boyce. They were going to come on. And what was unusual about me inviting them on is because they are Republicans. They are Black Republicans. But I have said, I interviewed both of them. I wanted to understand why they were running, what their issues are, and why they're on a Republican ticket, right? Like I was trying to understand that. And because I'm not, I continue to say the show is not about Democrat versus Republican. The show is about advancing the lives of brown and Black people.
That's right.
And so by any means necessary, I wanted to be able to have a conversation to see, are these 2 candidates truly dedicated and wanting to promote and advance brown Black people? I'm going to tell our audience they pulled out at the last minute. And I think it was a very short-sighted, and I'm disappointed to hear it, because if you can't come on to a show and have a conversation with brown and Black people about our lives, if you're too intimidated and tell me that I'm too left for you to come on and talk to, I am left behind. And so too many of us are left behind. And so you can call the show left if you want, but my question is, are you too right? And if you can't come on and have a conversation with our community, then why in the hell would we vote for you? Right? Why would we take a chance on elected people who won't even have a conversation with us, and then you claim you want to represent us? But it's okay, because we have her opponent on with us tonight. And so we will bring back the Democrat who is running for that seat atop. She has been on HeartBeat before. Let's welcome back onto HeartBeat Shukri Olow with us this evening. There she is. Hey, Shukri.
Good evening. Hi, Cindi Bright and Joy Stanford. Oh my goodness. I'm so honored to be with y'all tonight.
We are glad you are here.
We know you had another gig you were at, so thank you for dropping and joining in here.
I'm in my car. That's my studio.
Okay.
All right. I'm trying to see you, look at a camera, and hear you at the same time.
She's in her car, Cindi.
Okay. Well, Shukri, look, we want to hear from you. Last time we heard from you, you were running for a King County Council seat. You're back running for a Senate seat in the 47. Talk to us.
It's actually the House seat, position 2. Honored to be running again and hoping to serve the people of this community, a community that I've called home over the last 24 years. This is an open seat. Representative Pat Sullivan, who served honorably in this district for 18 years, retired this year. And so there are a number of us running. Obviously, I think I'm the best candidate to win this seat, and honored to be connecting with voters and hoping for a different outcome this time.
Yes, we are glad you're there.
And what is your platform, Shukri?
Absolutely. So I am running for this position and have a couple of priorities that were actually co-designed with the people of this district. We did listening sessions during last year's campaign. There is some overlap in the district with the position that I ran for last year. Our first platform is around building more affordable housing and making sure that the people who call the 47th home are able to continue to live in this community. The second issue is around K-12 education investment. Our campaign received the sole endorsement from the Washington Education Association. We want to make sure that our children have quality education, that our teachers feel supported in the classroom and beyond. I'm also a parent of 2 children who are both in the Kent School District at Emerald Park, and I know exactly what our families have gone through, especially during this pandemic. It's been a really difficult time for a lot of young people. And the final area is around childcare access. We know what this pandemic has done I know many providers, my mother being one of them, who've struggled even before this pandemic. We need to make sure that our workforce is supported and that our families get access to childcare.
And Shukri, in your area, in the Kent area, there's quite a bit. I was reading a little bit about you. It's the area where Don Bennett ran for mayor. So you have kind of a controversial mayor. You have some police issues that I was reading about. Talk to us about the city of Kent and some of the challenges that the city has. I recognize your platform is education and housing, a common theme, right, for every Black candidate. But talk to us about what's going on in the Kent area around police accountability, around the mayoral leadership there.
Yeah, great question. So the district includes the cities of Kent, East Hill, especially the cities of Auburn and Covington. It is a purple district, and so there have been Republicans who've represented this community for quite some time. And in 2018, the district flipped Democrat with Senator Mona Das' election and with Representative Deborah Intiman also in 2018. And of course, Pat Sullivan held this seat for 18 years. And so we're hoping that the 47 stays blue. There are, lots of challenges, impacting growing cities like the city of Kent. I know that community members that we've canvassed have talked about wanting to make sure that they feel and are safe in their community. And this issue around public safety means different things for different people, right? Some people have been sharing with our campaign that public safety means that everyone is housed, right? That we no longer have unsheltered people in our communities. For some people, it's about having access to basic needs like childcare and food and housing, right? And for other people, there is a growing sort of perception and a reality of rising crime, right? And so making sure that we're able to have support and services in place to kind of combat some of the troubling things that we're seeing around the community. I wouldn't say that these issues are unique to the city of Kent. It is the largest, 8th largest, ethnically most diverse city in the country, the 10th fastest growing city in the country. And so often what I've seen with that level of growth is that the services don't follow that growth, right? And so we want to make sure that those services are in place in this district.
Yeah.
Have you had conversations with the police chiefs or police department or police staff within those communities? Have you done a listening session? Are you intending to do a listening session with those folks so you can be in community with them?
Absolutely. I actually announced my campaign back in April, which is kind of late for a race this important. Only because there were some transitions with Senator Das not seeking re-election and Representative Sullivan retiring. And when I announced back in April, one of my intentions was actually to have that conversation with our residents in law enforcement, including our police chief and some officers. I also have a friend who serves on the Renton PD and has, I think he's the only Somali police officer in the state of Washington. And so I did a ride along with him to try to understand what a day in the life of an officer looks like. I also did a ride along with an officer from Kent PD and, heard some of the things that I think I heard last time when I was running, right? That often, similar to teachers, police become the doers of all things, right? They're helping someone, get access to substance abuse treatment services. They're, helping to make sure that someone who is unhoused has access to a shelter. Right. They're and, obviously there are some other issues as well that I think need to be addressed, especially around police accountability. And that was picked up during the last couple ledge sessions as well. And so I did those listening sessions. I mean, I've only been in the race for a few months. I'm hoping that there's an opportunity to continue to listen to not just law enforcement, but to many people in our community who are in different professions and be able to lift up their wisdom post-primary and beyond.
Awesome.
What are your views about, a couple things I want to ask you about. One is about business recovery. in your district. The other question I want to ask you about is social equity here in the state of Washington. What are your thoughts about both of those two areas?
Yeah, I mentioned, at different spaces that I am the daughter of a small business owner right here in the city of Kent. My mother is a childcare provider, a union member with SEIU 925, and they so endorsed my campaign. And she's had this business for about 15 years, and I've seen her struggle. Especially in the last 3 years, many small businesses are struggling. Many of them have actually closed their businesses because they were not able to get the supports that they needed, the investments that they needed from our government. I mean, there were some resources, PPP loans and other things, but often, that funding didn't get to Black and brown businesses, right? There are definitely disproportionality around who is able to access resources, even though it's available. And so we need to make sure that we make those investments and that we have a deeper look at the data and see who is disproportionately impacted, and be able to offer tailored resources to those communities. On social equity, I mean, I bring a systems level lens as someone who has worked in different social systems. I know that it's important to not try to piecemeal the issue, right? And not, kind of come at it from a lens of this is just in education, or that this is just in housing, or that this is just in healthcare. It is actually the issue of inequity is embedded in all systems. And I think we need to have that intersectional understanding to be able to get at some of the root causes of these inequities. And I'm committed to doing that when elected.
Are you, there's a couple of things that are going through my mind as you're talking about that, and especially when you talk about the intersectionality of all of these issues.
Right.
When you talked about, your own family having a small business and the businesses needing to recover, we're at a place now in Washington State. There is some, I'm just going to put in quotation marks, it's probably not the right term, but I'm going to say excess revenue. There's never enough money that comes in, but there is some money. I think I saw the number was 1.4 billion. And so there are, activists here in Washington State, pushing for those monies, and I'm going to say 100% of that money, because it be reinvested into the communities that have been destroyed by the inequities. There are other issues in the state of Washington, i.e. the Cannabis Coalition, the fight to get licenses to brown and Black businesses. The Black people, we've been the ones that have been disproportionately impacted by those issues. Black men are being locked up 4-1, to the white man for these issues. And now the state of Washington is making tons of money off of these issues. And so what are your thoughts about leveling that playing field, taking that money, that excess money, and reinvesting it back into our communities? And secondly, what are your views about, a whole way that we can address these inequities is through the Cannabis Coalition? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I appreciate you so much for centering the conversation in actual solutions, right? Because there are solutions out there. And the reinvestment of dollars back into those who are most impacted by these systems is a solution that I support. I mean, when you sort of unpack, you mentioned the war on drugs, right? And the impact on the Black community in particular. When you look at some of the disparities within health systems, Black women who are dying during childbirth, when you look at our education system, Black and brown children often being disproportionately impacted by racism, because that is the core of the issue, and by systems that often are not set up or designed to best support them. When you look at sort of all these intersecting issues, I think it is important to figure out what deeper investments can we make. And I fully support looking at those solutions to make sure that we're investing in the right places.
Yeah.
And I want to explore learning more about some of the work that's happening with the cannabis. Is it a work group, Cindi?
Yeah, we can talk offline about it, Shukri.
I would love to.
More of a high level question, just to put it out there, because there are, politicians, these are ways that we can actually solve and start to mitigate some of the inequities in our communities. And
Right.
yet we're still fighting for scraps. And so a statistic that I quote a lot, just as a business person, I talk about GDP spend on Black business last year was $1.2 billion. In a state of Washington, we have about a 5% Black population. That number should be 22 billion. And so even with a $1.4 billion excess, we're still talking about pennies compared to what actually needed to bring equity into the state of Washington. Now, we've done some things here in the state. I'm commending Governor Inslee we've stood up an Office of Equity. We've stood up, Dr. J has been on the show. But now we need to get serious, right? Like instead of dripping the coins into it, we don't want the things that jingle. We want the things that fold. Right? So how do we get ourselves to that state? I heard that. I think that's an Eddie Murphy thing. I think it was a movie. I said, remember it was Coming to America when they were passing the bucket and the chicken bones went in there, and the guys on stage saying, we don't want the stuff in there that jingles. We want the stuff that folds.
We'll take it, but we really want the stuff that folds.
Yes. And so I'm just making that point about, because we're supporting candidates that are going to step into office and not become a politician, but actually become an advocate. And so the pattern of behavior that goes on with elected officials is that they tell us everything that they think we want to hear, and then we get them elected, and then they're sitting on their hands. And now we don't have the luxury of, look, Pastor Carey is being shot in the street, right? Like, we don't have the luxury of the coins anymore. We need the paper. We've got to restore our communities. And so these are just the issues that I'm asking about, because it is inherent on every elected official to step up this next election cycle. I don't even have the patience for it anymore, but I was raising that, Shukri, because I wanted to see if you agree with this urgency that is needed to make change.
Absolutely share your value around the sense of urgency to make change. And I would even say it is one of the reasons why I'm running, right? Because our communities have waited for too long to see this level of change. And one of the things that I hope I can ask of you two and to your listeners as well, is to be able to hold me accountable to my values, right? I think we need accountability circles and partners who are able to, push back and say, hey, Shukri, girl, what are you doing? You should know better, right? Either privately or at a sit down, whatever that looks like. I want you to know that I'm open to that conversation. If you ever see me veering off my values, to bring me back, to ground me, to anchor me to our shared values. And I look forward to that day where Cindi can call me up, or Joy, and say, hey, we got you. And also, let's do better.
Well, what do we need to do right now? What do you need from us right now? Can we show Shukri's website? What's happening now? Are you knocking doors? Are you making sure you go out with someone to knock doors?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to wish Pastor Carey a quick recovery. Campaigning as a Black person is incredibly challenging. I know this experience. I know you know this experience, both Cindi and Joy, and so many incredible Black candidates who've come before us. It is not something that I think is easy for us to navigate, right? But we do it, we endure, because our communities are that important to us.
That's right.
We struggle today so that generations from this day can have an easier runway. That's what you've done for me when you ran, right? You paved the way so that I could be in this position today. And so I wish Pastor Carey well. There are multiple candidates in this race. Everyone and their cousin is running. Mentioned one of the Republican challengers who's raised a ton of money. So obviously every campaign needs donations. We have raised about $70,000 in the last few months since I've been running. We have a campaign budget. We're almost there. And so we could use more donations. Our website is electshukri.com. SHUKRI.com. And primaries coming up. Ballots have already dropped last week, and so people should have received it in the mail. And we hope that we're going to win. And one of the ways that we know we're going to win and hope that we're going to win is by canvassing. We've hit about 7,000 doors since announcing 2.5 months ago. There's name recognition because of my race last year. We've also been able to connect with voters through paid media, and I am sure they're kind of sick and tired of seeing my mailers. I'm personally like, this is a lot. But with a name like Shukri, I think you need different touch points with the people of this district. And so we've had that. We have, a robust volunteer team, a great campaign staff, a great consultant in John Weibel. And, we hope that our message of serving a community that has loved on my family and so many others in this community resonates so that we can ultimately win come August 2nd and in the general as well.
Shukri, thank you for running. I want to emphasize a couple of things about you as a candidate. I want to make sure our listeners hear and understand this. There are several people running. There are several Black people running in this election. And you must pay attention to the fact that there are candidates that have an R behind their name, Black people who did not want to come on and talk with you as community. It is important that you understand and be able to distinguish Shukri Olow's campaign from these other campaigns that are going on. We need to make sure we have an advocate in Olympia for us. We don't have the luxury anymore of playing games with people who just want power and just want to come in and claim that they're an elected official and then sit on their hands. We need to make sure we get the right people in office. This is a critical race. We got to pay attention to it. We need to get out the vote. We need to make sure that our kids, our younger people who never pay attention to the ballots, that they are at the polls and they get out and know that every vote counts. Shukri, final words before we close. Thank you so much for coming on with us tonight and taking this in your car.
Yeah, I've had a day. So I'm a director at the city of Seattle by day. And so I got to work around 7:30 a.m. And I'm also a single parent. And so I had to get up super early to get to work, and got done around 5 and had a fundraising event, and then came here because I genuinely appreciate the work that you all do to make sure that people know that this is our democracy. Right. And in this democracy, in this legislative district, there is a lot at stake. You have candidates that look like us, but do not have our shared values. Right.
That's correct.
And so I hope people are paying attention. I hope people are able to come out if they're able, that they're able to donate and tell their friends to support. I would be honored to have your vote. And finally, I would say, Cindi and Joy, I thank you. I thank you for all that you've done for Black women. Don't want to get emotional here, but especially as a Black immigrant, who came to this country some 24 years ago, like, my path would have been so much more difficult if it wasn't for people like you who struggled so that I didn't have to. So I honor you. I thank you. I'm inspired by you. And I look forward to staying connected.
Thank you, Shukri. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, Joy, for coming on with me tonight, and to all of our listeners who joined tonight. Thank you so much for joining this conversation, for hearing our candidates. The ballots are out right now. We must pay attention. We must get our votes out. Thank you for joining. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday, same time, same deal. Have a good evening, everybody.
Half that up in Saks, I favor Black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yo.